Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Just Following Orders. A friend of mine is retired now, but back in the day he did internal audits for a large bank. This story takes place about 30 years ago, when network computers were less common and paperwork tended to be compiled manually. Bank managers had to submit various reports to their regional offices, showing what their branches were up to. The regional offices would occasionally send out auditors to go through the records and make sure everything was in compliance. One report that had to be filed monthly was a list of any employees who were in arrears on their own loans. Employees who had trouble managing their own credit were considered to be more at risk of stealing, fraud, or other financial crimes. So I guess the bank wanted to keep track of anyone who may fall into that category. My friend's team is doing an audit at a particular branch, going through the records and looking for any discrepancies. They find a big one. The manager of this branch had been behind on a number of loans he held with the bank, but had been leaving his own name off the report. More records are pulled, and they start looking at everything this guy has ever filed and comparing it to other records. The manager had started doing everything correctly, including himself on the report fairly regularly. At a point about 10 years previous, it suddenly stops, despite the spotty loan repayment continuing for years. Bosses of bosses are called. It's looking like they may have stumbled on years of falsified records and possibly more serious fraud. The manager is definitely getting fired, and depending on what else they find, looking at some serious criminal charges. Finally, they call the manager in to show what they found and ask for an explanation. The manager produces a letter from someone higher up in the bank. Basically, when he started, the manager was just a little too free with his spending and didn't make his monthly loan payments a top priority. His boss wrote a letter saying that having the manager of a bank branch at the top of a list of unpaid loans was an embarrassment. If he wanted to keep his job, he better make sure that his name never appeared on that report again. He was supposed to sort of his financial affairs, but the manager said he interpreted the instructions literally and simply stopped including his own name. It took years before anyone noticed. In the end, the investigation found no other signs of record tampering or financial crime. No one really believed that he actually thought what he was doing was allowed, but the whole thing was just ambiguous enough to give plausible deniability. By the point everything was discovered, the manager had his finances in good record, and he was pretty close to retirement. The whole thing was just sort of waved away as being more trouble than it was worth dealing with, and the manager didn't see any real repercussions. The next story is called Automated Her Out of Her Job. This happened a few years ago. I was a data and reporting analyst and did all the ad hoc reports for the company. My boss, we'll call her Carrie, was useless. She was one of these people that was always late, left early and took days off at a short notice. The only thing of value she did was all the regular reports, sales, revenue, etc. We suspect that she got away with it because she was having an affair with her boss, we'll call him Stuart. Our CEO was a fairly decent bloke. He'd look for ways to cut costs and would pay regular bonuses for the best cost-saving initiatives. Carrie was very keen to submit ideas and encourage us all to automate our tasks, so she could try and take the credits for the savings. On one of her Skype days, which coincidentally Stuart was sick as well, the CEO was desperate for the sales report my boss does. I said I'd give it a look and see if I could get it done. Normally, she'd spend 2 to 3 days doing it each week, but the CEO wanted it that afternoon. A quick inspection of the data showed it would quite easily be automated, so I knocked up the necessary script and got it over to the CEO. He was super impressed that not only had I got it done in a couple of hours, but also that it could be updated whenever he needed it. He asked if I could also look at the revenue, churn, and a couple of other reports. Over that afternoon, I automated everything my boss did. Both Carrie and Stuart were back the next day, but were immediately summoned to the CEO's office before being suspended and sent home. Turns out the CEO knew they were having an affair, and all the times they were sick or late or had to leave early was so they could sneak off and get together. He'd not done anything about it because of how important these reports were. Now that they were automated, he was able to get them suspended and later fired for gross misconduct for all the times they'd taken off. I also got a nice bonus out of it. The third story is called Wait to Check In. I'm a truck driver by trade. I work for a large, popular shipping company, and more often than not, I haul 2 trailers at one time. I don't actually haul long distances, but I have a ton of respect for those that do, especially owner-operators. I only drive about 15 miles at a time, and they call me a shuttle driver. The specific satellite location I work for calls me their shuttle queen, just because I'm one of the fastest shuttle drivers they have. Due to this, I get all the hots and super hots. This is the stuff that you pay extra for overnight shipping and such. I might not drive 500 miles a day, but I move 20 trailers a night on average. Recently, my company changed its dispatch system for the millionth time since going paperless in 2020. This system is glitchy and slow, and often the dispatchers don't even see our check-in. This causes us to slow down and we get pretty grumpy. The only nice thing is that we can access the GPS location on trailers we have been assigned to, so long as it's not glitching. For context, the satellite location only has 20 doors or so, and a very small yard that wraps around the building. The main hub has well over 100 doors, and the yard is massive. Without GPS, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. It doesn't help that people leave trailers everywhere, making the yard even worse to drive around in. Most of us will park right outside the gate and check in while waiting in line to get through the gate. This also tends to save a few minutes, so we get our load right away rather than waiting for the very slow dispatch. The people at the hub, for whatever reason, like to call me out directly. They don't even call me. They call my boss, like the cowards they are, to complain about me doing the exact same thing that everyone else does. They said if I don't do it the way they want it, they will not even assign me loads, which means I make no money. They never say anything right away, but wait till I've been doing something wrong for weeks first. They have been doing this crap since I got pregnant, to the point where they tried to fire me, rather than accommodating my very reasonable request for lighter duty work. I had to threaten a lawsuit. Anyway, it's very important that I turn and burn early in the night, due to having back-to-back hot/super hot trailers that need to be moved. It doesn't really affect my bottom line to wait an extra few minutes, but can create a snowball effect down the line if these trailers are even so much as 5 minutes behind schedule. Rather than doing it before getting in the gate, they want me to wait until I've found a spot for the trailers and then check in. Prior to doing this, the yard jockeys would see me check in and meet me right inside the gate and take my trailer right away. Saved everyone time and headache this way. This is where I get petty and a little bit of malicious compliance comes in. If you have ever worked with truckers, you'd know we get petty in a hurry. Now, instead of letting the switchers find me right at the gate, I go all the way to the other end of the yard and drop the trailers in the most annoying spot I can find. Especially if it's close to a dolly that the yard jockeys are not allowed to touch. I also just let the GPS check my trailers in now, which takes an extra 10 minutes sometimes. Fine by me. I close my eyes for 10 minutes, bossing running myself too hard. Normally, I'm in a big hurry to get moved away from my trailers too, and now if they are waiting on my trailers, they can also wait 30 seconds for me to finish my paperwork too. I'm sure I'll get a complaint here soon, but hey, I'm not checking in outside the gate, right? And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and would like to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.